Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B from Steps to the Future, coming to you with another episode of College and Career Conversations with Dr. B, part of our Representation Matters platform. This evening, I have with me an extraordinary blogger, entrepreneur, Renaissance woman who does a little bit of everything. So I hope that you have an opportunity to stop in, to join us, to take part in the conversation. Please make sure as you join in that you're sharing this out with people that you know, because I'm sure they'll be interested in this conversation. And those of you that are watching it on the replay, thank you for tuning in on the replay. And if you have any question or comments, you can still put them in the comment box because we will get back to you. So stay tuned, everyone, and we will be back in a few seconds. So thank you, folks, again for coming back. And I would like to introduce this evening our guest, Tiffany Haywood, otherwise known as Mrs. T. So, Tiffany, tell people a little bit um, about your early years. You know, where you grew up, how you how you ended up in college, what made you decide to go to college, because everyone has a story about college.
Okay, so I grew up in the Bronx, born and raised Bronx, New York. Um, I always call myself forever a student because I just love school, which is kind of weird. I know you and I were talking before we started, and you said like you love school, and that's how you knew you wanted to be a teacher. I love school, but I did not want to teach at all. But I did know that I always wanted to continue my education. So my grandfather actually put me through Catholic school from kindergarten all the way through high school. And so that's how I kind of got my start. I went to Catholic school for elementary, an all-girl Catholic school for high school, and I knew that I didn't want it to end there. I was a teen mom. I got pregnant the start of my senior year, or yeah, start of my senior year actually. So, well, midway. I was like 4 months pregnant at graduation, and my grandmother was like, "So what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to school." So I ended up doing my college interview about 6 or 7 months pregnant, and I told them I'm going to do this. I'm determined to do this. This is not going to be a hindrance. And so I had my son that November. I started my college courses in January, and I pushed my way through. I did my internship. I had a job at the school bookstore, and I did an internship to finish out my degree. So it was always something that I knew was something I had to check off my list. And even now, like 6 kids later, I still want to go back to school. Like I love to go back and learn more. And I'm always looking for courses and different things to help fill that void of knowledge, because I think no one can ever be at a point where they know everything. Like you always should have some place where you need to learn more. You need to gain from someone else who maybe their experience was different than yours. So for me, that's my pretty much my educational journey. Like it was always something that I knew it's just like a part of me to learn and to push forward in that way.
Well, thank you for sharing that. For folks out there who are teen moms and think that that's the end of it for them, or that um, they may not be able to pursue their educational dreams, don't put it on hold. You know, it still can be done. And Tiffany just gave you a great testimony about the ability to do that. It all depends on your support system and how bad you want it. So, you know, it can be done. It can be done. And everybody's circumstances are different. So, Tiffany, where did you attend college?
I went to Berkeley School of Business in White Plains, which is Westchester County, New York. And they were really great. I had my grades were pretty high, so I went on scholarship. Plus, I had like funding, state funding and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a wonderful experience for me. I think the part I loved the most about it was the internship, because I was able to have like that real life in the moment work experience, and it was still counting towards my degree. And I'm still looking to that. Like, I think that's a great way at the job I had previously, we had interns come in, and I think it's an awesome way for you to get, because some people just learn better hands-on. I'm one
Right.
of those people, like, I need to visually see it. Yes, I can read it in a book. Yes, I can take your instructions, but I kind of want to do it too. So I think that was like one of the things I loved most about going to Berkeley. Internships were always an option, and they would place you, or you could find one on your own, and it always counted towards your degree. So it was a really great experience.
I love that you talked about having internships, because I always talk to my students about the importance of, once they get to college, seeking out those internships, not waiting for someone to hand it to you, but be proactive. I tell them, I said, one of the things I always tell my kids, I said, okay, I want you to send me a picture of you in the career services office, because those folks can help you get internships, and do not wait till your junior or senior year.
Yes.
Get those internships as soon as possible, and and get that experience, because when they get out of school, so many times, think about how many times you go on a job interview and somebody's saying, well, we're looking for somebody with some experience.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get experience if you don't let me work. That's
Exactly.
how it happens.
And the cool part about my internship was it turned into my full-time job when I graduated.
Okay.
So I started out as a paralegal intern for one attorney in a building that held like multiple attorneys. And he hired me, and then the other attorneys in the next office over liked my work with him. So I ended up with 2 full-time jobs from one internship. So it was definitely a win-win situation for me.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. You're originally from New York. How did you find your way here?
Well, how most people find their way to Fayetteville is through the military. I am a military spouse as well. So my husband was in the Army, he enlisted, and we ended up moving here. I did put things on pause for a little while because kids and babies and deployments and whatnot. But thankfully, my educational foundation gave me a skill set that I could use still, even though I wasn't necessarily in my career field at the time. So we definitely came here due to the military. We did 2 years in Hawaii, and then I think he had like maybe 1 or 2 years in Georgia, but I stayed in North Carolina because my family was here. But he's retired, and we've chosen to make Fayetteville our forever home. So we are definitely Faye by choice, and I love it down here.
Okay, so funny, because uh, the person I had on 2 weeks ago is also a military spouse, and that's how she ended up here. And I always laugh, because people typically think if you live in Fayetteville, you must be a military spouse, or and I said, I'm not. I'm here because my husband's originally from North Carolina, and then when he retired, he said he wanted to move back home, and that's he's a Terry Sanford graduate, and he wanted to be back home, so that's how
Well,
I ended up here.
that's a good reason to be here too. I always find it kind of rare when I find somebody who says they're a Fayetteville local. It's like spotting a zebra or something. I'm like,
Right.
oh wow, really? Because most people I meet do say they came from somewhere else. But Fayetteville definitely has my heart. It's a place I love to be, and I love to support, and it's a community I love.
Yeah, it's I've adjusted. I have to say, I was a New Englander through and through, and loved living in Rhode Island. So it's been an adjustment, but it's been a decent adjustment. I've done what I needed to do. So for those of you that are listening in, we have with us Tiffany Haywood, the Mrs. T. This is also National Women's Small Business Month. So that's why I wanted to feature women for the month of October, because, we have some fantastic entrepreneurs in our local area. And I think it's important for young folks to understand the risks, but also the benefits of being an entrepreneur. So Tiffany, tell us a little bit about what you do. What is your business?
So I actually have 2 businesses currently. I started out as a lifestyle blogger, and it wasn't a business. It was honestly a hobby. I was home with 3 kids under 3. My husband was in the military, and honestly, I just wanted to speak to grown-ups. So I started my blog to like write and have adult feedback on what I was writing. That was where everything started. Writing has always been a passion of mine. Words and the play on words, and how you can just have so many different ways to express so many different thoughts and feelings. And that's what my blog started out as. But then that paralegal and that nosy part of me as far as education started digging into it more, and I realized like, hey, I can actually make this a business. It can be profitable. So that's where my blog turned into an LLC. So I'm actually an LLC as the Mrs. T. And on my lifestyle blog, I offer media and event coverage. I also offer social media coverage. I represent different brands and products and stuff like that, forward income. And then from that, I've been doing that now, I think it's since 2013. And slowly that evolved into my second business, which is actually a brand consultation business where I help other small business owners build their brands, build their businesses through their social media presence and how they represent themselves, not only as a business, but also as the business owner. And so that I've been doing since 2017. So I have two businesses right now. I love them. They never feel like work or a job because I actually enjoy and love what I do. I love helping other people. I love seeing people have that moment where they realize, okay, this isn't as hard as I thought. I can handle it. Belinda has up the lifestyle blog. That's my blog site right there. And you guys can feel free to stop by, take a look. You can totally get to know me. It's called The Mrs. T because it's just about everything about me. So there's so many places and different ways that you can get to know me. You can get to know what it is I love, why I love my community, how I support my community. And then on that right hand or that left hand side of the screen, you can also click through and visit the consultation site if you want to find out what I do from there as well.
Okay. Wow, thank you so much for that. I'll have to spend a lot of time going through your website as I was looking through, and I said, "Oh my God, you've got some great pictures up here. These are really good." So we actually have a question from an audience member, Deb Franklin, and she's asking about when we go into stores in Fayetteville, do they ask if you're military or if you have dependents? I know I do. When I go into a store, they always ask you, "Oh, are you military?" Because then if you are, you get a military discount.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that surprised me, from not having lived in a military town, when I first moved here, I was trying to, I was looking for positions at the different colleges. And I remember on every application, there was a question about your military status. And I said, well, I guess that makes sense if I'm in a military town. But I started feeling like a second class citizen because I said, okay, I wasn't in the military. My husband actually had been in the Air Force, but he had been out, he didn't make a career out of it. So it was just interesting because it is, Deborah, moving to a town that's a military town is definitely, I think it might be something that everybody should experience because you really start appreciating military families more so than you maybe would have normally.
Mm-hmm. Just from the mere fact of being exposed to them. Me personally, though, I don't have a lot of them ask me. I always ask in the store just because there is a discount involved. So I always say like, hey, do you honor a military discount or do you have a military discount? Some stores here in Fayetteville have them on like Mondays only. Right. Some stores do them all the time. It really depends. But I don't get asked it too much that I remember or that I realize. Maybe it's just I've kind of phased it out. So maybe they do ask and I'm just not clocking it. But I think it's a cool thing. I think it's like you said, it's a different experience for sure. Living in a military community in a military town where that is kind of like what the majority is. Just coming from the Bronx, like we had different military, like there was a presence, but it wasn't as prevalent, and like you didn't get to know people. You very rarely saw anybody walking around in a uniform. Now, like in Fayetteville, they're everywhere. Right. So it definitely is a different experience, but it's one I enjoy.
Okay. So getting back to your blog, how often do you post? And I ask that because when I started my business, I was like, okay, I'm gonna, put in a blog a month or a week or whatever. And I was looking at it the other day and I'm like, oh my God, when's the last time did I put something up here? It's been a while. So tell me about your routine for blogging, writing, and how often do you do that?
So I must confess, I have slacked off on the writing portion. COVID, and then I've also kind of leaned more towards the consultations. So I'm like scheduling clients, handling social media for other businesses and business owners. So sometimes I don't always get to write as often as I want to. But when I do, the thing I did, and I like this could be a tip for someone out there too. Like if you see that your consistency is not maybe where it used to be, I pulled down the date off of my post. So if someone visits my site, the only way they necessarily know, like, hey, maybe she hasn't posted in a while, is if the content itself is like not evergreen, or if it's date specific or seasonal. But if it's something that's pretty much generic or evergreen, meaning it can go for any time of the year, any season, then they don't necessarily know that maybe I wrote that post last month. They just see that, hey, she has content up. So that's how I kind of give myself a buffer when it comes to keeping content up really consistently. It honestly seems like COVID has kind of slacked me off a little bit on that, because my other business picked up during COVID, which I was actually kind of surprised about, but that part picked up. And so I kind of had to pause on some of the stuff on the blog. But as far as consistency, I always tell my clients, your social media presence and your consistency, you get to set it. It's kind of a perk of being a boss. You get to say how often you're going to pause and post and how much content you want to put up there. And the thing is, your audience starts to expect it when you do it. So if I post once or twice a month and they see that becoming a pattern, then that's going to be their rate of consistency for me, versus someone else who may post 2-3 times a week, which I used to be that person. Then my audience was looking for it then. But you can kind of set that gauge yourself, because your audience follows your lead, which is an awesome thing.
I'm glad you gave the tip about taking the dates off. So guess what? I'll be calling my web person and saying, can you take the dates off my post?
Yeah, you can totally remove the date. It'll just say the post. And then that way you don't feel that pressure of, oh my God, they're going to go to my site and see like I haven't posted in 6 months. Like now I do try to post at least once a month, if, just to be there. Especially if I'm doing event coverage, that automatically goes on the blog. So that'll kind of keep me consistent too. But for me, blogging, I always try to have a balance of that sponsored or paid content along with my organic, the reason why I started the blog, like just writing kind of content. But like I have several posts in draft right now, but it's just that you have to sit down and actually like put it out there. Right. And so I'm the queen of like dictating a post on my phone. I'll say the whole post and then all I have to do is cut and paste it and edit it out. So that's a good way to get in there too. But yeah, you can take those dates down and take some of that pressure off for sure.
Okay. And I like what you said about the consistency. So I remember when I first started doing this Facebook Lives, it was actually a challenge that was put to us by someone. We were all in a women's entrepreneurship group, and we were told to do this. And so I did a couple, and then I said, okay, then I was told, okay, you need to be consistent. People need to know that they're going to see you. If you want to do it once a week, then pick a day, pick a time. And that's really how I ended up with Mondays at 7 p.m. That just became part of that. And I have just stuck with that. So I do like that. I do like that hint that you gave us. So we have a comment here from Debelina, and she says, as a woman, what are some challenges you encountered as you ventured into entrepreneurship? And can you share an antidote and how you overcame the challenge?
Sure. So hi, Debelina. It's great to have you, first of all. And thanks for the question. So one of the main challenges I faced was that balance between time as a woman. I'm going to address it as a woman. Like I said, when I started everything, I had 3 kids under 3, a husband in the military. So I was running a household, trying to chase after kids, and then trying to pursue something that I wanted to make successful as well. So a lot of that success had to come with a combination of giving myself a break at times, like, okay, I'm not going to get to post today because the kids are going crazy, and that's okay. But then it also had to be a matter of time management and organization. How can I make this so that it can work for me in the easiest way possible? I always tell my kids, don't touch something twice if you can do it and touch it once. And I kind of carry that theory over to when I'm working. If I can get, like I said, how I'm the queen of dictation, like I love to, I kind of free flow when I write. So I love to grab my phone and just talk out a post. And then I'll just say, insert this here or insert an image or whatever. And then I just take that content And then that way I don't have to necessarily type and stop and think or hit a brick wall when it comes to the writing. When an idea hits me, I can literally just let it flow out in voice format, like a conversational format, and then just re-edit it and fix it up to make it look pretty. So that helped me a lot, finding those little tips and tricks that would help me not have to spend so much time on the prep work or so much time on the editing, and to get the content out there a little bit quicker and faster. As far as sharing an anecdote on how I overcame the challenge, that's pretty much it. Like, don't, if you can condense the things and have it so that it's in a process that works efficiently, but also effectively, then do that. And it could be different for every person. Someone else may write better sitting at the keyboard and versus me, who I like to just talk it out. So find what works for you and make it work for your site, your business, or whatever you're doing as well.
Oh man, God, that answer was so good because I think that's one of my challenges about writing is I'll start writing somewhere, but if I'm on my computer, I have to have everything else closed because if not, I get distracted very easily and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get this done because
Are
I'm
you like
sitting.
the squirrel person? Because I'm like
I
squirrel, and then
am.
I like totally
Yes.
like get diverted. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I keep saying, okay, I've got to find something that works for me. And I have not tried recording something first and then doing it. So I was just gifted this Rocket book.
Okay.
So it's where you write into the book and you have to use a special pen and the notebook.
And it
And,
transcribes it for you.
and then it's supposed to transcribe it, but I haven't figured out how to use it yet. So I have to sit down and do it because I was sitting there the other night and I got frustrated. I said, "Oh, I'll have to try this later." But I said that might be something for me because I do like when I do webinars or something, I like to handwrite my notes because I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling like I was typing so much, I was losing my penmanship. And,
Yeah.
and there's so much research out there that shows that actually writing the words helps you remember better.
Retain it. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I said, okay, so I'm back to writing, but I said, okay, now I've got to find a way to get these notes up rather than, okay, here they are on all these notepads. Now let me
Get them
retype it
printed.
and what have you. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try that. I
That's an
gotta
awesome thing, though. I mean, like, for writing content, I definitely dictate because it's just faster. But I was a journaler. In sixth grade, my art teacher, Mrs. Einstein, I love her. I still remember her. She introduced us to journaling, and it was just like, wow. Like, I would journal all the time. So I literally have like stacks and stacks of journals. And that's where a lot of like ideas and stuff come from for that basic content that I post on my blog. But what you said about writing it to retain it is definitely true, because my mom used to always ask me, like, I never see you studying. How do you keep your grades up? I don't see you crack a book ever. But for me in class, if I took notes, I was fine, because just the action of writing it was like locked in. And I could literally sit down at a test and close my eyes and visualize my note page, all the notes I took, and be good to go. So I
Yeah.
never was that kid who opened the book and sat down for an hour and studied. I just couldn't. Like, I would just go stir crazy. So I would, if I had to study, I would take whatever the assignment was and just rewrite it in my notebook, and then that was it. I was done.
Oh, that's great though. But see, this is what's so important for students also to hear this because everybody has a different learning style. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to find what works for you and use that. So you found what worked for you. I was one of those people that, I have to read stuff and sometimes I have to see it in order
Mm-hmm.
to retain it. Like, show me what it looks like. Show me how to do
Mm-hmm.
this. And so everybody has to find their learning style. So it's fantastic that you were able to find yours. So we have another question from Debelina. Um, she wants to know, how can you inspire elementary school children to pursue a career in writing, and how helpful are writing classes?
So honestly, my writing sparked from reading.
Mhm.
I read books like, it was just like, oh my gosh, my mom could not get me to the library often enough because I was just reading, 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 reading. And absorbing all that, and it sparked my imagination. And so the reading actually sparked that need for me to create of my own, like to create my own stories. So my writing definitely started in a foundation of reading. And I went to school at a time where, and I don't want to say it's not here anymore, but when I talk to my kids, I feel like maybe it isn't. But like we had literature class. And it wasn't like English. It was like we had an English class, we had grammar or whatever, but then we had a literature class where we focused in on books. And that was my favorite class ever. And I mean, I got the thickest books I could find, and I just like soaked it all in. And the thing was, it translated over into my creative writing classes because I could either use that style of writing that I saw in those books, or it would trigger something and oh, okay, this is how they phrase that. Let me see how I can make that work for me. So that's definitely how the writing happened. And so I would encourage any elementary school child to pick up a book, start reading, start absorbing those words and seeing how they're used. And that's even how I built my vocabulary up, because I was that kid who had my book and a dictionary right next to it, because I would read it. And if I couldn't figure out through context or the words around it what it meant, I just automatically looked it up. And then boom, I had a new vocabulary word in my bank right there. So that definitely helped me, because then I had a new word to use in my own writing. And then her next part of it is how helpful are writing classes. I think they can be really helpful. It all depends on what type of writing you're trying to do, I think. Like for me, I'm more on the, I want to say creative writing. A lot of people who read my blog, if they're reading something that's just like organic, for me, they'll say I kind of write the way I speak, because I try to keep it in that a cadence of like it's speaking and you can hear it and you can almost feel me talking to you. But then there are different styles of writing where it's more formal, or like if I'm writing a review for a brand, it's obviously not going to be in a chit chat. Well, depending on what they ask me, but it's not going to be too informal. You know what I mean? So I think classes can be helpful to help you hone those different skills for the different types of writing you want to do. I took a lot of writing classes, creative writing, more of the formal format of it and everything. But I tend to lean towards that. It comes out pretty much as if I'm talking to you. And I like to have that where I imagine the reader is actually hearing my voice speak to them. And it's more in my own cadence and in my own tone of voice. So that is more relatable.
Oh, I love that you talked about the library, because for folks that know me, I have to talk about books. It's funny because I was telling somebody one of the very first things I did when I moved to Fayetteville was to go down to the headquarters library and get a library card.
And, that's what we do every city we go to.
Yes.
Every city my kids have been at, the first thing when we move in, I look up where the library is, and all the kids, we all track into the library, and everybody gets a library card.
It is. It's free education. All you need to do is to get a library card, and I think that's so important. And when you talked about, pick up a book, and it doesn't have to be, a classic novel. It could be, there are so many things out there for students to read. I have one young lady that I'm working with, and she's, we would talk about reading books, and she's like, oh, I know, but I can't find a book I like. So we kept talking, and she loves sports, loves basketball. Steph Curry was like, her favorite basketball player. So I found a book on Steph Curry and sent it to her. And she's still like, struggling with getting through a book. So I said, okay, let's make it shorter. So she has a subscription to Sports Illustrated. They have some of the best writers.
Yes, and it's still reading. And some of those articles are so informative. And the thing about it is, you don't even have to feel like, well, I'm 40, whatever, so I have to be in this section of the library. I still go over to the young adult section because I like all that sci-fi and like, what is it? The sparkling vampires and stuff. Like, I still like that stuff. So I will walk my little tail right over to the young adult section and get whatever interests me. And that's the thing about reading and going to the library and picking up a book. You don't have to feel boxed in or like you have to be in this certain category. You read and you go to what interests you, whatever sparks that interest in you. The same way when you're scrolling through your TV, you pick shows according to what you think is going to spark your interest or pique your interest or maintain your attention. That's the same way you can pick a book. You don't have to feel like it has to be 500 pages long or else I didn't really do anything important or I didn't really read a book. No, I mean, I read what I'm interested in at the time.
Yep. And it could be poetry. with Amanda Gorman, after she did her poetry reading at President Biden's inauguration. I mean, there were people who were saying, wow, poetry, I never really thought of it that way. So she helped spark interest. And plus, with her age, people saw someone that was in their age category and they're like, okay, this is pretty cool. So let me look at that. And, and a lot of people are now, they're writing in graphic novel form. So again, that's another way to find information and to read, but it's so important. And parents out there, adults out there, you have to model it in your homes. Your kids have to see you reading. They have to see books. They have to see magazines. Like Tiffany said, go to the library. I mean, the libraries are all open now in every branch in Cumberland County. They're open. We haven't opened back up on Sundays yet, but we're open, Monday through Saturdays. So you should definitely be going to the library and getting back in touch with those books.
And it's something about an actual physical book too. Like I have a Kindle and all that other stuff, but there's just something about that scent of a book and the smell of a fresh library book or even a new purchase. It's just completely different.
It is. I call libraries my happy place. So it's funny because I talk about books and library. I'm the person when we go on a college tour and we're walking around the campus and they always say, well, this is the library and it has these many volumes of books. And people will say, oh, we don't need to go in the library. I'm like, no, we have to go in the library.
No, I want to go in the library.
We have to go in the library because I need to just walk in and say I set foot in this library.
Yes.
So much so that my friends, when pre-COVID, when they were traveling, if they went somewhere and they saw this fantastic library, they would send me pictures on Facebook. They said, hey, look at this. And even now, when I get pictures of different things, somebody sent me a picture the other day of a young girl in a costume where it was like she had wings on, but it was made out of book pages. Cool. It was so cute. So I get those all the time from people. So because they know I'm always talking about books, but I think I'm addicted. I'm trying to stop buying and use the library more. So I'm getting better, but still.
See, that's why my husband got me the Kindle because he got tired of books getting collected. But I told him, I was like, it's just not the same. I was like, that whole swipe and scroll, it doesn't connect to me the same way.
I know. I love what you said about smelling a book because I do that all the time.
I do. And I know people probably think I'm crazy, but I don't care. And the older the book, the better. It's just.
Oh, I know. I know. Phew. I'm not the only one out there around smelling books.
No, you're not alone. You're not alone.
So talk about your social branding business, how you help business owners with their social media presence.
Okay, so that's my consultation business. That's at tiffanyhaywood.com. And that kind of was birthed out of when I started my blog. I sent myself to Google University in the middle of the night after all my kids were in bed to try to figure out how to make this work. I built my own site. The 2 sites that you see now, I built those myself. And it was many a night of trying to figure it out. But the thing that I kept finding was, unfortunately, a lot of other bloggers did not want to share the how-to of what they were doing. It was more like this is my test paper and you can't see it right now. And I didn't necessarily, it didn't help me. It didn't support me at all. So when I got further into my blogging and I realized I wasn't the only one who was struggling with these same questions, that's kind of how my consultation business came out of it, because I wanted to eliminate that barrier of, well, yeah, I got my success, but you have to get yours on your own. I see nothing wrong with sharing the tips, the how-tos or whatever, because as far as I see it, the audience that's meant for me is going to be for me, and the audience that's meant for you is going to be for you. There's no reason for me to try to block your journey in any way. If anything, pushing you forward will eventually return that same positivity to me in some form or fashion. So my consultation business is where I sit down with small business owners, and I always tell people I do that first 15 minutes of talking because I want to actually get to know the owner, because I find that building your brand around who you are as a small business owner automatically pulls in what you're doing as a small business owner, because nowadays it's not about the big chains. When people are shopping small and when people are going to these entrepreneurs, it's because they want to support the person behind the product or the person behind the business. So I always try to make sure my clients are willing to let that person be seen. Now, some people aren't comfortable with putting their faces up front, and that's fine. You can have a logo or a graphic, but you still want whatever you're sharing on social media to be authentic to who you are. And then you also want it to be social. I mean, social media, it's in the word. It's meant to be social. So you need to have conversations with people. Your replies shouldn't be automated where it's just like, thanks for the comment. Like, start a conversation. And the coolest part about doing that is social media was meant for that. So the more you conversate, the more you build that thread on your social media presence, the more you're building your social media presence, the more those algorithms and those rules start to work in your favor and thereby grow your business. So those are like some of the skills and the tips that I try to teach my clients. And then seeing them, and I'm not that consultant or even that social media manager who wants to do it and not tell you how to do it. I want you to know, like, I don't want you to be forever dependent on me. Here's how you do this. If you need me, you can come back and ask, but go ahead, you've got it. And so one of my clients, he always says, like, he's like, once you're a The Mrs. T client, you're forever a The Mrs. T client, because I will continually stalk your feed after we're done with whatever we're doing. And I will even send a random text and go like, so, hey, so your post today, you might want to rethink how you phrase that part or something like that. And he'll always go, oh, whoopsies, my bad, I lost it or whatever. So those are the things that I love. That's what gives me that satisfaction in my purpose. And what I'm doing is seeing people find those skill sets, learn those things that they need to do, and then going forth and doing. Then even seeing them share it with someone else, I'm like, yes, this is awesome, because that's what you want. You want to create that cycle of continued sharing of knowledge, continued pushing other people forward, because in doing that, you build that community of small business owners, and then you build that network. And it's just, I feel that's what the purpose of all of this should be, to build others. And in doing that, you automatically build yourself up as well.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that, because I was telling someone the story of when I first started this college and career counseling service in Fayetteville. I didn't know anyone else in the area that was doing this work. The closest people were colleagues in Raleigh and Durham and Cary, but I'd have to travel there, and this was pre-COVID. And I found out that there was a woman in Fayetteville that was also in the business, and I'm like, yes. So I reached out to her and I said, oh, I'd love for us to have lunch together so we can just talk and what have you. So we finally made a date to have lunch, and we went and had lunch. And we had what I thought was a 2-hour conversation that was just delightful to me, because somebody was talking my language. So it was so good. But at the end, I said, oh, this is so good. I can't wait until we meet up again. And she said to me, we won't meet again. And I said, why? She said, your competition. And I said, what? And I said,
Yeah.
well, but I was just learning the whole thing about, building your brand and what have you. So when she said that, I was devastated. So I made it a point that whenever someone in our organization, I'm part of the Independent Educational Consultants Association, and I'm signed up to be a mentor. So whenever somebody new in the organization chooses me for a mentor, then that's what I do. And I remember I was talking to a young lady the other day, last week actually, and she said, I can't believe the amount of information you just gave me. And I said, why not? I said, there's enough business for all of us. And it's just like, if you're choosing a doctor, there are so many doctors out there, and you're going to go to the one that fits you. Just like we tell our kids that they need to look for colleges that are good fits for them. It's the same thing when you're doing an educational consultant. So I said, hey, I'm thrilled for your success. And if I can help you out in any way, then that's what I do. So I love hearing you say that, because that's so
Yeah,
important in
definitely.
entrepreneurship.
I mean, and like you said, there's enough out there for everyone. None of us are reinventing the wheel, but we all have our different personalities. And that's the other part of when I say the small business owner is the biggest influence on the success of their business, because it's you that make you stand out from everybody else who's doing the same thing. So I've had clients where I knew they weren't a good fit. Like, me and them just weren't going to work. So I passed them to the next consultant that I felt they would fit better with. And then I've also had referrals from people who were like, you know what, Tiffany teaches in this way, and I think this is kind of what you need. So maybe go talk to her, because she might be able to help with that a little bit better. And then as far as that word competition, I hate that word. I have on my site, and I always tell my clients, it's not competition, it's motivation. If you have someone who's in that same field and doing the same thing you're doing, allow them to motivate you to push yourself even further. Instead of seeing it as, oh, I have to compete with them, so I might have to knock them down in order for me to go higher. No, you see where they are. If you see that there's somewhere you strive to be, then allow them to motivate you to get there. It does not have to be that competition factor. There are so many brand and build business consultants here, even just in Fayetteville, and I follow all of them. A lot of them follow me. And like I said, if I know a client might work better with that person, then I'll send them their way. Whatever is meant for me is going to be for me. And the thing is, when you try to take away from someone else, you just end up taking away from yourself. So I'm totally on the same page with you. I really don't like that word competition when it comes to women in business, small business owners. I don't see any of it as a competition. It should always just be that extra motivating factor to help you push forward a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I know in one of the groups I'm in with a group of IECs, we meet monthly and we actually say, okay, so how does this work for you? How do you do this? What type of documentation do you use for this process? So we very much have gotten into the idea of sharing with one another, because like we said, there's enough to go around, and we're all different. And it's all about people reaching out and working with you because they know, like, and trust you. And we are our brand. If people are hiring me, they're not just hiring somebody to do educational consulting. They're also hiring me to be who I am with their
Exactly.
child.
Exactly.
And I always tell people, I said, for me as a teacher and as a high school counselor, I always wanted to treat other people's children the way I wanted people to treat my children. So that's what it is for me. That's what it is for me. So I love what else the other thing you were saying was about about motivating. That is so powerful, not to look at it as competition, but to look at it as motivating you to do better. And I really like that. I really like that mindset. That's such a shift for some people.
And it's again, that kind of goes back to my love for words. Like, I love to find, like, okay, why does it have to be this way? It can also be this way. And so, like, I was just sitting around one day and I heard someone was saying, like, much like how you said, they were comparing another business and saying that they were their competition. And oh my God, I can't believe she put this up. I put this up yesterday and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, why does it have to be that way? Like, just allow whatever her success was or whatever she just did to motivate you to do the next thing. And it's just that, like you said, it's just that slight shift in your mindset, and it can be the whole difference in where you go and how you get there.
Oh, it's so true, because and I think especially during the height of COVID and still being in this pandemic, learning how to pivot, and also learning how to support one another in this. One of the things that always hurts my heart so much is when I go downtown and see the businesses that are trying to get back to where they were, and the businesses that have left, because we had such a vibrant downtown. I mean, we still do, but I see how hard people work to get to where they are, and it's so important for us to support people. And right now people are dealing with labor shortages, and that's affecting people's businesses, where they either have to close, or their hours are shortened, or they have to do something different. So again, and that's also where sometimes branding might okay, so maybe this is where I need to change my branding. I need to do something
Mhm.
different to get me out
Exactly.
to people.
Exactly. And that's part of branding. Like, branding cannot be something, it should be ever changing, ever evolving. So yes, you can love your brand as it is. For example, when I first started blogging, I had the worst name possible for my website and my blog, because I just thought I had to fit everything into the name that I wanted the site to be. So my initial blog name was the Mrs. T Love Life Laughter.com. Not only is that a mouthful, but it's not promotion friendly. It wasn't elevator pitch friendly. By the time I get halfway into my name, people were walking away from me. And I had to like say, okay, Tiffany, I know you kind of like that name, but what can we do to fix this? Because it's not working. And so then that's how I had to rebrand. And there's nothing wrong with a rebrand. There's nothing wrong with a pivot. It's not saying you failed at what you were doing before. It's saying you recognize that change is needed and you're moving forward into that change. So I went from the Mrs. T Love Life Laughter.com. I kept the Mrs. T because that's the core of who I was. And then
Mhm.
I just let the other parts represent themselves differently in the content that I wrote. So now if I do an elevator pitch or if someone's asking me something, I can just be like, hey, I'm the Mrs. T. I don't have to say that whole mouthful.
Right,
And that
right.
took a moment because yeah, I liked my name before, but then I, like I said, I had to understand like, okay, this is not working. If it's broken, fix it. Don't act like it's not a problem. So a lot of businesses are doing that, and I've loved seeing our downtown businesses that have evolved and have taken that pivot and maybe built up a website where they didn't have it before because pre-COVID they had enough word of mouth and enough people coming in that they
Mm.
didn't need it. But then when COVID hit, they realized, okay, this might not be my comfort zone, but in order for me to succeed, I have to make this change. And I give applause and kudos to all of them that have done that. And the other part that I love about our downtown small business owners are none of them see each other as competition, even though many of them may have similar things that they offer. If you really go downtown, you'll see so many different collaborations between businesses. They partner with this one to do that, and they're promoting their business and they're promoting what they're doing over there. And then even when they come together as a community for downtown K Street itself, you see them all together working together for the success of every individual business. And that's how we should be as a whole. When we're working with these networks and we're going to these networking events, it shouldn't be to maybe I'm going to study what the next person's doing. No, it's to make that connection and to see what you can each gain and give to each other.
You know, when I was started to laugh because when you were talking about networking, I remember when I first started this business, um, and never, never having a business class and never thinking that this was something that I was going to have a business. I just wanted to be around kids and I just wanted to teach and counsel and do that type of work. And never in my wildest dreams did I think this was going to be a business. But moving to Fayetteville caused me to do a pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I remember going to earlier networking events, like when the chamber would do something or somebody else would do something. I said, "Oh my God!" And by nature, I'm an introvert. So that, for first of all,
Same.
that was like, "Oh my God, I've got to go talk to all these people." And then it felt like speed dating because you're just, okay, here's my business card, here's your business card. Okay, move on to the next one. And I would come home and I would be so drained.
And
I said,
overwhelmed
"Oh,
probably too.
yes." I said,
Mm-hmm.
"What do I do with all these business cards? I don't even know who these people are." And I remember I had gone to is probably another chamber event, and they were put on well and they were well organized, but it just wasn't working for me. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
when I was talking to a gentleman, a local business owner, who I had met at the last three previous events. And when he gave me his card again and was introducing himself to me, I just looked at him. I said, "This is the fourth time you have introduced yourself to me. You don't know who I am. You know, I know what you do." So I just said, okay. So I just said to myself, all right, you've got to change your mindset when you come in here. So now when
Mm-hmm.
I go to a networking thing, especially if it's big, well, I haven't been to one lately, but if I go to a bigger one, I just focus on having kind of in-depth conversations with a minimum of two people.
That's what I was gonna say, because that speed dating impact is not productive. And the
Yeah.
thing is, when you go to a networking event, you want to actually walk away with results and actual true connections. I told you I was at an event earlier today, and it's like you said, you have to actually just have a conversation with somebody, an actual conversation. Don't lead with your business card. Let
Mhm.
that be the closeout part of it. Like, oh, by the way, if you want to stay connected, here's my card. But when we've had that conversation prior to, I actually will have a reason to want to stay connected with you.
Right.
If you just shove your card in my face, it's literally just going in the pile that's in my purse, because I have no idea who's connected to this card or why I need to look at it or anything like that. So just like social media is meant to be social, even though we introvert, I call myself an ambivert because I am
Right.
introverted, but I can turn on that extrovert if I have to.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah.
thing is, even as an introvert, you have to learn to actually have a conversation with someone.
You
You
do.
need to learn their story in order to understand how you can help and support people. I have friends who will call me and go, I need somebody to do this. Can you tell me who? And that's because I've built my network to the point where I know this person's story. I know why they do what they do. I know how they do what they do. So if you ask me for it, I can go, yep, I know somebody who can do that. Actually, I know 3 people. If you want it done this way, they can do that. And if they want, so, but that's because I got to know them. It's not because I have a collection of business cards. So there does have to be that personal connection with someone for sure.
So true. For those of you that are just joining us, we're here with Tiffany Haywood, otherwise known as the Mrs. T, blogger, entrepreneur, brand consultant extraordinaire. So those of you that are watching this on the replay, if you want to find out more about Tiffany, you can definitely go to her website and you can check out all of her blog stuff, or you can link with her on her brand consultation if you're starting up a business and you need to have a chat with someone. You can also follow her on some of her other social media on Twitter and Instagram. So make sure you do that. It's at the Mrs. T. So it's really easy to find. So again, make sure that you're following her on social media, and make sure after you watch this that you share this out with other people. And if you still have a comment or a question, you can always put it in there, because I check this frequently, so we would definitely get back to you. So Tiffany, if you had to give someone some advice on maybe the top 3 things that they should be doing as far as starting a business or becoming an entrepreneur, what would you say to someone?
The first thing is, don't feel like you have to rush into it. Take the time to do the research, to know, to be fully informed into what you're walking into and what you're getting into. The second thing is, the legal side does matter, especially if you want to function as a business. Like I said, when I started my blog, it was a hobby. But once I realized I wanted that to become a source of an income for me and I wanted it to be a business, I got my LLC, I got my EIN, I had my DBA. I set everything up in a way that it functioned as a legitimate business. So that is something you do want to do. You don't want to accept payments as yourself, or just, oh, it doesn't matter, just send it to my PayPal or my Cash App, unless those are business PayPals and business Cash Apps. So do everything in order, because in the long run, not only does it work out better for you when it comes to if you look for funding or if you look for grant opportunities or if you're looking for investors, but it also works out for you in the representation of your business. Because when someone sees a legitimate pay system, or they see that your stuff is set up in a certain order, they feel more likely to support and to give their money to your business, versus just shoot it to my personal PayPal, just send me a Cash App or something like that. So that's step 2. Make sure that you do everything in order, it legally, financially, get a business banking account, make sure everything is going in the way that it should. And the final part of that is, whatever business you decide to do, whatever, whether you're doing, offering a service, whether you're creating a product, or whatever it is, make sure that you're doing it authentic to who you are as the owner. Don't try to imitate John or Sue down the street, because the thing is, imitation takes a lot more energy than being authentic to who you are. So keep that authenticity, and that's what will ring true with your clients and your potential clients and collaborators collaborators down the line. Keep true to who you are, and that'll draw the clients and the customer base that's meant to be yours.
Oh, that's some great information, because I know when I first started my business, I think I did some things where I was rushing and trying to get things done because I was just feeling this need to like get everything right the first time around. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I tell people that I mentor now. And I'm like, plan it out. You've got months to do this, figure out your steps. And again, that legal part is so important, because after talking with someone and I said, okay, so is this going to be a legitimate business? What am I going to do? So I went through the steps of creating an LLC, and it's really easy, folks. If you're here in North Carolina, you just go on the Secretary of State's website, and it really kind of walks you through it. It's not that hard at
Mm-hmm.
all. Getting that EIN, getting that business account, making sure I have a PayPal business account versus my personal PayPal account. Now with most banking, you can have a Zelle business account. So
Mm-hmm.
people are also, will also pay through that way. And the last part, being authentic to who you are, and not comparing yourself to somebody else. One of my favorite songs is called Comparison Kills by Jonathan McReynolds. He's a young gospel singer. And he has this song, Comparison Kills, and it is just so beautiful. And when I find myself kind of maybe going down that little rabbit hole of saying, well, oh, so and
Mm-hmm.
so, I said, wait a minute, I need to put some Jonathan on so I can remember what I need to be doing. So those are fantastic, fantastic nuggets of information, because we all have to start somewhere with our businesses. And if you start in that way and you start out with your heart in the right place, you know, it'll work out. That doesn't mean it won't be hard. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of work, because being an entrepreneur is it can be 24/7. It all depends
Mm-hmm.
on, what it is that you're trying to do with your business. And if you're a solopreneur, if it's you, you're the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. You're doing it all. You're trying to figure out how to do everything. So one of the things, so I'm just going to switch off a little bit. So one of the things, we were talking earlier about reading. So one of the things I always like to do to introduce to the audience, make sure we know about, is a book. So when Debelina asked that question about how do you get elementary children to write, and you talked about reading, it makes me think about how difficult it is sometimes to get young folks to read. And I
Mm-hmm.
like what you said about not always having to go into the adult section to read, going into the young adult or the teen section. So this is a book that actually I first heard about it on the Karen Hunter radio show that's on Sirius XM Urban View Radio. And she had the author of this book on. It's called
Wow.
Black Boy Joy, 17 Stories Celebrating Black Boyhood. And every one of the authors of this book is a Black male. And it's written
Nice.
for a middle school age person. And they, it's poetry in here, narrative stories, but I am enjoying this so much. So again, this will be in the show notes. It's called Black Boy Joy, and it's edited by Kwame Balaila. And again, every author in here is a Black male. So again, if you have a reluctant reader, it always helps when you can have a student see someone who looks like them, either in the
Mm-hmm.
authorship or in the story. So
Mm-hmm.
again, Black Boy Joy.
I'm gonna need to pick that up for my son.
Yeah, it's really so. I have been, based on some other readings I've been doing, I have been collecting. My husband keeps saying, "Why are you buying these books? We don't have any young kids here." And I'm like, "Yeah." Plus I like to pick up early Christmas gifts too. And people that know me, kids that know me, that I usually exchange gifts with, they know one of those gifts is going to be a book. But I always like
Mm-hmm.
to read it first so that I can ask them about it to make sure that they've read the book. So I've been actually collecting, different books by Black authors that are geared toward young folks. So I'm even thinking of trying how I can take that and use something with that in my Instagram. I've got to work on my Instagram lives and stuff. So I said, oh, maybe I could like read some stories or something, some storytelling. I don't know. I got to figure it out. I got to work that library book piece in there more so because that's such a big part of who I am. Oh, you're welcome. So Debelina is saying, thanks for sharing the book. Oh, you're welcome, Debelina. Thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate it when you join in, and I appreciate it when people engage in the conversation, because it's so important that we have these conversations and talk to one another and learn from one another. You know, Tiffany's told us about, she's a lifelong learner, and she just gave us so much great information here that um, that you can use. And if you have the opportunity, you're looking to start a business, or you just need to find out more about how to brand your business, or you want to see what should a blog even look like, you know, you can definitely go to Tiffany's website and look up that information and learn. I mean, I love the idea that, you know, you're a lifelong learner. It's so important to be a lifelong learner because we're forever evolving. And that's how we
Yes.
do it, by learning. So,
Hmm.
Tiffany, any last words you'd like to give to the audience before we sign off?
Um, just something I think I keep it in my signature in my email all the time, just bouncing back to the being who you are. I always tell my clients when they're trying to find out how to build their brand or where to start, find that thing that makes you really unique and make that your biggest asset. Like for me, I know I'm kind of wonky. I have like crazy sayings sometimes. I I'm a one take kind of gal when it comes to videos and stuff because I think all the edits and stuff sometimes take away from it. But find what makes you unique and build on that because it's going to end up being your biggest asset, and then it's also going to make you stand out from everybody else in the crowd.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. So I thank you so much, Tiffany, for being with us this evening. This has been a fantastic conversation. And folks out there, again, as I said, as you watch this on the replay, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them into the section. This is also on my YouTube channel. So you will find that information there. So if you have family members or friends who don't like to get on Facebook, and right now with all the talk on Facebook about Facebook as a company, we'll see what's going to happen there. This is also running live on my YouTube channel, so you can also give the people the link to that. At the toward the end of the week, I'll take this conversation and put it in the show notes and make sure you have all the links to Tiffany's website, her Instagram and Twitter handle, and anything else that we can put in there, and plus information about that book. So thank you everyone for being with us this evening. This has been a fantastic array of women to talk to for National Women's Small Business Month. November is National Career Development Month. So, hey, you know, that's right up my alley. So we will continue talking about people and their careers and how they got to where they are, and hoping that that will help you expand your options. So again, thank you everyone, and I will see you next Monday evening. It's Tiffany. You can just stay on for a minute. So everyone take care. See you next Monday evening.